So I think it sounds like science fiction at the first look, but it's a completely new way of doing regulation and governance.
To kick off that business is really hard. So hearing you say that as a startup founder in the Gulf region, you get to work with governments, that is basically it's a launch to Mars for many startup founders, I would say.
They had hardship to attract really good talents to the UAE or Saudi Arabia, for example, with very high salaries and attractive incentives.
That is actually something that most startup founders are dreaming of. Abbir, thank you for being back to the show. You are a legal futurist, founder of the Institute of Legal Transformation, chairwoman of the Regulatory Intelligence Committee. I got it this time.
Yeah.
And
well done.
And an advisor to regulators. Today we want to focus on the Gulf region. Can you tell us what is happening there in terms of AI activity? There's a lot happening, but I want you to describe it better because you're there very frequently.
Yes, actually there's a lot happening. It is part of the economic diversification. So the leading countries in the region have always a vision of their country, right? 2030 mostly. And in these visions, they need to diversify their economy. And one of the major pillars is definitely artificial intelligence. Therefore, you can see huge investment in that field. Not only investing in international companies or foreign companies, just like UAE invested heavily in OpenAI, but also investing in building national AI structure and AI models, let's say. In order to build national AI infrastructure, they need talents. This is, the fuel of building any technology on your own. And the fuel needs to come from other countries, for example, European Union, China, or the US. Now, my last visits showed that there is actually a flip. So meanwhile, before they needed to pay a lot of money, I know my friends or colleagues I worked with, they had hardship to attract really good talents to the UAE or Saudi Arabia, for example, with very high salaries and attractive incentives. Meanwhile, they're saying really good people are running into our doors because of the politics changing in the US, for example, and the economic power shifting in Europe. So meanwhile, a lot of talents are being attracted in the Gulf region, even with very lower salary. And I can tell you, I was on Machine Can Think. I spoke there at the conference, and this is exactly what I could see: many international talents coming, also from Russia. Do not underestimate that.
And
Russia
Africa,
and China and Africa.
Yes, and I mean, talents alone aren't sufficient, so you have to create a whole ecosystem for them to find the infrastructure, the funding, but also the housing, the activities. I mean, you're creating a new community, let's say. What do you experience when you're there? Is there a specific strategy just to attract as many startup founders as possible, tech startups? Or is it focused on industries? What is the rationale behind the AI activities in the region?
It depends from country to country. Like United Arab Emirates has a clear visa, golden visa for example, tech innovators. So you get a 10 years of visa. You can employ people there. You get a lot of advantages in working with the government, in being entering tenders and so on. Saudi Arabia is less. Let's say Saudi Arabia is more focusing on attracting, let's say, the know-how and building the capacity themselves, which I very much like also this approach, because they are themselves 42 million
It's
people.
a big country, yeah.
It's a very big country, so it's different than the
Yeah.
UAE. They depend very heavily on expats, on external talents. Saudi Arabia, sure, needs the talent. It's trying to attract the talent, but but it's definitely a different strategy. It is, we need you to teach our people so we can do it ourselves. Therefore, it will take much, much longer. Qatar, as you have been in Qatar, and you saw also their strategy of heavily attracting talents to Qatar, especially from the tech region, with you can register your company for free, for example, getting advantages here and there in working with the government, for example. So
that is actually something that most startup founders are dreaming of in Europe, I would say, because when you found your own startup, it's almost impossible to work for governments, because the tender requirements are so high that basically it doesn't make it possible for you. At the same time, if you want to work with the private sector, they also need references.
Yeah.
And so to kick off that business is really hard. So hearing you say that as a startup founder in the Gulf region, you get to work with governments, that is basically it's a launch to Mars for many startup founders, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, they embrace new solutions. So for also the UAE with the Future Foundation had a program where they invited startup founders, or at least even in the early stage, to bring their reg solutions for government or gov solutions, and with the outlook that you can get then a deal with the local government or the federal government once you went through a process, but you get at least supported till there. So yeah, I can tell that the hurdle here in Europe is much, much higher. There it is. I wouldn't say less. It's just you get seen earlier because it's part of the strategy to attract you if they feel you are. You add value to their ecosystem, which is, I think, a valid approach to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you need startups, you need innovation. Innovation comes easier from startup than from established companies, and you need to support them.
Yeah.
So hearing about this new ecosystem that is being created there and all the talents that are being attracted into the region, at the same time, the perception from Europe is there is almost no regulation there. Is this a fair perception?
It very much depends on what you identify as regulation. So there's two sides of the coin. It is not fair to say there's no regulation at all. This definitely not, because the Gulf region, let's say, or the major countries, we would, understand as the Gulf region, just like Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar. They have data protection laws in place. They have AI guidelines in place. But these are only soft laws.
They're guidelines.
Okay? Yeah.
And not
the AI soft law, I would say. There's guidelines, principles, and going back more to the data protection laws. However, there is no hard laws, just like we see from our European perspective as the EU AI Act. There is not. But you can't say there's like a regulation-free zone. Definitely not. However, the UAE was the first country, I think, who had an AI minister since 2017. Yeah, so you can see the position in the strategy or in the governmental strategy to give it a whole ministry, a very small ministry, really young people who are eager to connect all the dots across the country. And this is, I think, very crucial. So not every ministry doing whatever they want without, measuring the risks, for example. And they came up also with Reg Lab and sandboxes. So if any project, AI, let it be AI or blockchain based or whatever, they can be tested in these sandboxes first in a completely non-regulated area, and then see, okay, how could we how could that be fit into our existing regulatory framework, or what regulation would we need to make it happen if this invention is magnificently very, very important.
Yeah.
So they having few people, even if it's 10 people dedicated to manage a certain topic, which is like AI, which is across sectoral, I think it is not a bad idea. It just shows a different approach. Again, another one than we are used to. That's why, going back to your first question, is it fair? It is actually not fair to see the rest of the world only from our lenses. It is sometimes good to take a step back and say, wait a minute, are there other people and other countries in the world who do not look like us, but actually they could have some good ideas? Ooh.
This is enlightenment. Let me go back to this idea. I really like it. It simulates somehow the situation you have in companies. So this ministry is orchestrating the AI activities in a government and across the ministries. That is a similar role that you have to have in the enterprise as well. It's the AI governance role, and that's basically doing the same. You're orchestrating the activities and also making sure that everybody knows who does what, and creating that clarity. So I see the parallels, and I would say it's something to learn from for governments, but as well for companies who don't have this yet in place. And it's funny, many of my ex-colleagues or business friends, I would call them, they're like pushing me to become AI ministers. Like every time, it's like, Kenza, go for AI minister. I'm like, no.
I would definitely vote for you. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. I'm not running for minister. No politics, please.
This would be really, really cool.
So what else can we learn from the Middle East region?
Okay, there's a very, very bold initiative done by the United Arab Emirates under the Prime Minister's office, which is called the Regulatory Intelligence Office's approach to build a whole AI-enabled regulatory ecosystem. Why do I know it? Because I work with them. So
insider.
Yeah, that's why I know the insider. No, and I'm pretty much impressed by the approach, the goal, what they want to do, and how persistent they are in building it and being the first country worldwide, which is changing their whole regulatory approach across all ministries and the whole government system, building a tech-enabled governance system. So what I am supporting them with is building the human oversight, the human know-how to even be able to govern this governance system. Because as you know, we need always the human oversight and the human in the loop. So in order to build an AI or technology-enabled regulatory system, you have to have the right know-how of the human to be able to track mistakes, to track risks, to even review the output. So this is very, very hard to do, to not trust anything which is just produced by AI, and this would have a massive negative effect on the population then, for sure. That's why I like also the approach that building the know-how, the human know-how, in the same time while building the AI-enabled ecosystem and on the third hand is building a community which is still evolving, the community evolving, learning, and adapting to this AI-enabled governance system. So I think it sounds like science fiction at the first look, but it's a completely new way of doing regulation and governance, and it could be, again, it sounds science fiction, but it could be a new way of governance system. Again, it would work only in a very, very small country, which is anyway very digital. I question if it worked, for example, in Germany, but it's a very bold approach. And again, if we see failure not as failure, but as experiment and chance to learn, definitely the Middle Eastern countries are bold enough to try out things which might not be always the perfect solution at the first place, but always willing to learn from these mistakes and build upon it. And these are the people who are will be the innovators in the end, right?
Well, I mean, they are already. Because they're designing a completely new system for governance and tech base. So I guess it's going to be more efficient, quicker. Of course, the other side
if you ensure that the humans,
absolutely.
If you ensure that humans are able to govern it in the right way, therefore you need you need to upskill even the people.
You
Otherwise,
need the human the judgment.
Yes,
and don't have them blindly trust the outputs.
Yes.
So you're training the critical thinking. And then actually from an organizational development perspective, really interesting, because you're shifting the roles of what people do.
Yes.
And you need expertise to be able to execute that human judgment on an AI output. It's not that easy, especially to have it in a sustainable way. Because when you train, people are aware, they follow it, and then with time, they trust the AI output.
Yes.
So they lower their human judgment.
Yes.
So how to make it work, not to train them once, but continuously. And that critical judgment or critical thinking is still there. This is actually quite
absolutely. And the interesting part of it, if I may say, is with the training or with conceptualizing the training, we go back more to the very core skills of jurisprudence. So we need to go back more to legal theory, to legal philosophy, to also legal history, to make the human in the loop go back to the very core basics, because only with these very core basics it will be able to take these decisions or to evaluate new challenges which are produced by these technology. If you train only on this technology or how to use this technology, it will be outdated 6 months later. So what we are training is really the core basics to build the right judgment, as you just said, which includes not only the core legal skills, but also the technological, the basic technological know-how of how this system works, going back to the know your data structure, right?
And know what you're doing.
Know what you're doing. Exactly. Yeah.
Abbir, thank you so much for sharing your perspective on the Middle East region and for joining the show.
Thank you very much.
If you enjoyed this conversation, please think of subscribing and recommend it to podcast to your friends. Thanks for joining.